us. If you have additional questions, specific things that you want clarification on, that was said, or questions that you hadn't asked faculty that you'd like to add in here, please feel free to continue to use the question and answer box. I'd like to take just a minute or two and kind of just go around the squares, our Brady Bunch of squares for us that can see this grid, and have our current and former students kind of just give a quick 1 to 2 minute introduction to themselves, where they are now, what their, kind of unique experience had been going through the biomedical engineering program, as that may help you think of some questions as well. So I'll kind of go around my board, and so I'll start with Jordan.
Hey everyone, I'm Jordan. I graduated in 2018, so I was part of the first class to do BME, which was pretty exciting. I concentrated in instrumentation and imaging and then did a CS minor, but I actually worked in Larry Benasser's lab for 3.5 years, so most of my work initially focused on ligamentous tissue engineering, and then I started pivoting towards some computational data science stuff when I realized I was more interested in that. I spent a summer at Novartis, working for their clinical and translational imaging group, and then spent a summer at Stanford doing some machine learning for radiology work. And then my senior design project was actually under Chris Schaefer, who just logged off of this call, working on, I guess, a vital monitoring system for rodent models. So right now I'm a PhD student in medical engineering at Harvard and MIT. I work on non-invasive brain stimulation and brain-machine interfaces for clinical pain and anesthesia between Harvard Medical School and a couple different departments at MIT. So yeah, I think that's most of my things. I was involved in a bunch of extracurriculars, so if you'd have questions about time management, I can definitely talk about that. BMES, fencing, engineering ambassadors. There's probably more that I can't think of right now. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Jordan, for joining us. All right, Alex, I see you next.
All right. I graduated last year in 2019, and I'm currently doing a PhD in BME at Vanderbilt. My research right now is related to developing novel strategies to deliver drugs to the brain to ameliorate age-associated cognitive decline. But my interest in research really started at the BME program at Cornell. I worked in the lab of Mike King, who independently is also now at Vanderbilt. But there I was working on engineering our immune system to target circulating tumor cells to kill cancer cells in the bloodstream and prevent metastases. And I think that there were really a lot of opportunities to learn really advanced concepts in drug delivery, which is my concentration and which is what my research is. So I appreciated the opportunity to take graduate coursework in drug delivery. And then I was also really interested in teaching, and I was able to be a teaching assistant for 2 classes as an undergrad, including a graduate class. So that's definitely an opportunity that is available to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. All right, Nadum, I see you up next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nadum. I am currently a senior at Cornell University. I am in the biomaterials and drug delivery concentration. And right now I'm in California finishing up my classes from home and getting ready to actually start an MD PhD program in the fall. I'll be going to Weill Cornell actually to join them down there in the city. During my time at Cornell, I've been involved in a lot of different things. I did research in the Ulrich Wiesner lab, which is a material science lab. So you can actually do research in labs that are not BME related and still get credit for it for your BME requirements and everything. And I also participated in on-campus research during the summers. I had an internship in Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City in my junior year summer. And I've done a lot of other extracurricular work like service projects, abroad trips for service and clinical learning and clinical research as well. And so if you have any questions about ways to get involved on campus with service, with student groups with diversity organizations or research in general, you can let me know. And also pre-med stuff. I know a lot about pre-med stuff.
We've got questions coming for you. All right, Haley, you're up next.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Haley. I was class of 2019, but a little bit of a different version of 2019 because I graduated in December. I was the first co-op student of the department. So I did a co-op during my senior year, which is super atypical, but the department worked with me. Most specifically, Ryan and I had a lot of one-on-one time trying to figure out my schedule. And I co-opted at Toyota in the Ann Arbor, Michigan area in the safety and crashworthiness department. So we do things like airbags, seat belts, seat design, and then now what I work on full-time is pedestrian protection. So we're focused on the outside and the front of the vehicle, bumper area, hood, windshield, things like that. And during my time at Cornell, I did lots and lots of things. I was in Marilyn Vandermeulen's group, research group, who you just saw. I was also involved in Biomedical Engineering Society with Jordan for a little while. And then I was very involved in the Society of Women Engineers and was president for a time. And I was also a resident advisor. So I can also answer housing and campus life questions as well if you have any questions about that.
All right, thank you, Haley. Kristen, I see you next.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen and I'm a junior in BME concentrating in MCSE. I'm currently involved in computational neuroscience research under Dr. Linster, and my focus here is essentially to study the function of the anterior olfactory nucleus in contextual memory of rats. And so here I've been using electrophysiological methods and using a lot of coding in MATLAB and Python to process spike data. Also, I'm a member of a project team, as Ryan mentioned before, called Biomedical Devices, and it's essentially a multidisciplinary team that works on designing and building various medical devices for research and competition. And so actually a few months ago, back in February, a few members of the group, including myself, actually came together to participate in an AI health hackathon in New York City. And so there we designed a smart mask that monitors patient vitals to combat ER overcrowding while also allowing for physicians to prioritize the needs of patients who need immediate medical attention and also preventing the transmission of airborne disease within the waiting room. And so our idea actually got surprisingly a lot of positive feedback. We placed first overall and won third place in an IBM coronavirus challenge. So very relevant to everything that's happening right now. And so with this, we've decided to move forward as a startup. So yeah, that's exciting. And as far as internships go, last summer I interned at Harvard Med as a computational neuroscience intern. And this summer I'll be interning with Merck in the Manufacturing Science and Technology Division.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen. All right, last but not least, Kevin.
Hi, everyone. So my name's Kevin. I'm also a junior biomedical engineer at Cornell, concentrating in biomaterials and drug delivery. Brief overview about me. I'm very research focused, so I'm currently doing research in the BME department under Professor Putnam, where I study a functional biomaterial that can be used to treat dry eye disease. I'm also planning to pursue an honors thesis in his lab. So if any of you have questions about a thesis, shoot them at me. In regards to some of my other research experiences, I've also worked as an intern at Weill Cornell Medicine for the last 2 summers, doing research in hematology and medical oncology. And this upcoming summer, I'll be attending what's now a virtual summer research experience at Memorial Sloan Kettering. So we'll see how that goes. But beyond research and more focused on Cornell, I'm also a team lead for ChemiCar, which is one of the project teams at Cornell. I'm the photography director for Creme de Cornell, which is a student-run food magazine. I'm a big foodie. And I'm also a member of the Theta Tau Professional Engineering Fraternity, which focuses on developing professional skills for engineers. I also work a job in the art studios. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about that, feel free to ask.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Kevin. And I think you'll find a lot of people in this department are foodies. We in the administrative suite, we tend to have a chili cook-off every year where the whole building is invited to come taste. I know since everything has been going on and we've moved virtual, different labs have been having cooking competitions on Twitter. Yeah, I think the whole foodie thing translates throughout our community, it seems. So I wanted to start off, I think, with a more general question, kind of to the whole group, that is asking about what other BME programs you all were considering and why you ultimately chose Cornell's biomedical engineering program.
I can start. I had been accepted to a number of California schools from the UC system, and I'm originally from San Diego. So I actually wanted to get as far away from California as I possibly could, for no reason but just to experience something different. And I thought that aside from, the thing that I always say to students is you are going to go to whatever school you're going to go to and you're going to get a really strong engineering program there. Regardless of if you're going to a UC school, you're going to another, Ivy League, some big name, Big Ten school, Midwest. But what you get at Cornell is the Cornell experience. And I think that's what's very different. So the undergraduate experience, joining different clubs, the campus life, living in Ithaca. And I think within the BME major, from what I've experienced, since we started off pretty small, we're on the smaller end of the majors in the College of Engineering, we kind of turned into a family by the end of the 4 years, since we're doing lots and lots of classes together, staying up late nights doing homework. So I think that even though I didn't know that when I was a senior in high school, I did know that Cornell was definitely different than the other schools that I had gotten into, and I think that was appealing to me.
Yeah, my story is actually really similar to Haley's. I'm also from California, and I got into USC, UPenn, and Cornell. And so I was considering between those three BME programs, and I decided on Cornell because I didn't want to be in California and because I didn't want to be in a big city. So that kind of left Cornell. I also really fell in love with Cornell's campus when I visited. It's a really beautiful place. If you haven't been here before, you haven't seen any pictures, I highly recommend that you look it up online. It's a gorgeous place, pun intended. And I don't regret any of those decisions that I made because the people who I met here, the friends that I made, the faculty that we have at Cornell University, it's all worth the winters. And it's all worth the uncertainty of whether Cornell is better or UPenn is better or USC is better. Honestly, like Haley said, wherever you go, you're going to be great. But pick a place where you feel like it's right for you.
Yeah, do we have any other folks with thoughts on what made them choose Cornell? Or Cornell BME specifically?
So I can probably offer a different perspective. I actually applied to Cornell as a chemical engineer. I actually didn't know that BME was a major here at all. And so what happened was I took an intro class in Introduction to Chemical Engineering and decided that that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So that's another reason why you guys should all really look into those intro classes because they can really help you figure out some things. But I decided that I wanted a more biological focus related more to human health and found out that BME was exactly that. So I made the switch and I don't regret my decision at all. The faculty really are so knowledgeable. My faculty advisor happens to be my head of my lab that I work in, and he has advised me on so many things beyond just academics. And beyond that, the resources are also innumerable. So had I applied to other schools BME, I probably still would have chosen Cornell.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. Does anyone have anything else to add? All right. I'll say then that this kind of that responds intros well into this next question. Do any of you have tips on choosing an intro to engineering class?
I can talk about that because mine is not really traditional for the BME path. So, I mean, you can definitely take the BME class and it seems like a really good class. I didn't know that I wanted to do BME, so I took the Intro to Nanoscience class, which is one of the best classes that I actually took. And that knowledge came in useful throughout my entire career at Cornell. So that's one that I recommend checking out.
I want to piggyback off of what Alex just said. I also took the Intro to Nanoscience class. My reason for taking it was because I had just recently watched the movie Big Hero 6, and nanotechnology was a really big thing in that movie, and I was really hyped about that. And so when I saw that was an option for a class for Intro to Engineering, I just hopped on that really fast. So my suggestion would really just be pick the class that sparks your interest the most, because it's supposed to just introduce you to the theories and ideas of engineering in the first place. It's not supposed to be like a stressful thing. So do what you think you might be interested in and test it out and see if you like it or not.
Yeah, I think I would add on and really echo that final point. Find something that sounds really interesting to you, and also think about, if you are deciding between majors, and you're feeling a little bit unsure, feel free to use that opportunity to kind of test the water with, the major that you really think, that you want to explore a bit more. And so I think at the end of the day, finding something that you're going to find really interesting, especially as you're taking your coursework this first year on campus, I think that's a great opportunity. Okay. Would you all describe the BME environment to be more collaborative or competitive between students?
Shoot, Ryan, I was just typing an answer to that.
Sorry,
Okay,
I hadn't got to that one yet.
I'll submit it and then someone else can.
I could answer that. I think it's definitely a collaborative environment for me, at least. From like most of the classes within the BME department have been focused on like group projects. So there's like group lab reports, group presentations, and I know that for seniors there's the design lab. So you'd be working in groups again to design whatever you choose to do. And so I think that it's really great that they have this just this intention to get us accustomed to working in teams, because that is, as engineers, what we'd be doing in the future in the workforce or wherever we choose to go.
Great. So we've got two separate questions here. Do you know anyone that majors in BME and also plays a sport? And how are those folks able to manage their time?
Yeah, a lot of my friends are actually athletes in BME. I can think of four off the top of my head right now. And they're actually some of the most disciplined students in our class. They get everything done early, everything done on time. They're always sleeping before I am, and they're always in class on time before me. So like, they are some of the best students that we have in the program, and everybody loves them. They're very involved. They're doing research. They are on project teams. One of them is actually a project team leader 1 year and also the captain of the gymnastics team simultaneously. So athletics can definitely correlate well with the engineering curriculum. It'll be work, but it can be done.
Yeah, so totally agreed. And we've had a lot of athletes who have gone through the biomedical engineering program. They tend to gravitate towards the biomechanics concentration. But, it's from fencing to basketball to ice hockey to track, gymnastics, field hockey. Yeah, we have a whole bunch of athletes within the biomedical engineering program. And if you check out our website, we've got a spotlight on some of our athletes and some of the work they've done. And also, what are some common feasible double majors or minors to go with BME? So, you know, for those of you who've maybe sought out minors, I know Jordan, you have. So, what are some minors or double majors that you all have seen throughout the BME community?
Yeah, I mean, I can say I did CS, and I didn't find it to be too crazy. A lot of the classes actually ended up double counting for the instrumentation concentration, so it worked out pretty well. I haven't heard a ton about double majors just because of like how curriculum overlaps and whether or not you can do that in 4 years. So there are probably majors where it's possible, things like biological engineering, but after a certain point, you're either like definitely taking summer classes or definitely going 5 years. There's also the concurrent degree program if you want to look outside of the College of Engineering at a double major, and that's 5 years by default. So some of the requirements for your colleges then get waived to allow you to complete your degree in time. But I don't know, no one in my cohort did it. And I think minors often make more sense because chances are you don't need both degrees. But you know, it is possible if you especially work with your academic advisor to kind of figure out how to rearrange your schedule.
Yeah, and as the academic advisor, I suppose, I'll chime in and say that we do have a couple of students who have done double major with CS and ECE so far, kind of leading the way there. And as Jordan mentioned, it's being able to double count some of those courses. So courses that would count towards both majors, and using those for your like concentration electives, especially within imaging and instrumentation for the CS and ECE examples, were really, really helpful. So we do have students who will minor in other engineering disciplines, as well as things like business and leadership. So this question is going to go specifically for Nadum, who is pre-med. How did you find keeping up with the workload? And how much time do you feel like it left for extracurriculars and breaks? Ultimately, was balancing it all difficult?
The workload for pre-med with BME.
With BME, yeah.
Yeah, I read a comment. One of the questions was like, how well does the BME curriculum and the pre-med curriculum line up? There are some places where you do kind of have to double down a bit, but overall it's definitely doable. You find that a lot of biomedical engineering students actually do take that route, and it's not impossible, and it's also not too bad. I will say again, you do have to work at it, and yeah, you have to work at it, but there's a lot of resources to support you through the process, and there's a lot of collaboration, especially between biomedical engineering students who are going through the same things. Just some specific examples. When you're taking, I believe, organic chemistry in your junior year, you will have to balance when you want to do like Orgo 1, Orgo 2, and then Orgo Lab. Some people will opt to take the lab class along with the lecture class, and that can be a little bit more of a strenuous semester for you depending on what else you have going on. So I personally pushed off the lab class for a year and took it now as a senior. So you can do things like that. There's a bit of flexibility within the scheduling, and you just have to like have a bit of a long-term view of things to see what's coming up next semester, what's coming up next year, and how does my BME requirements match up with my pre-med requirements, and work with Ryan as often as you can to make sure that you're doing the best thing for you. And if you can do that, you're going to be fine. You shouldn't really be burned out. And if you are, talk to somebody, because there's a better way to do it.
And did being pre-med influence your concentration pick at all?
That is an interesting question. I consider myself a bit of an unorthodox pre-med, just because I was always more of an engineer than I was a pre-med student. So I picked my concentration and kind of like settled on that, irregardless of my pre-med intents. So being biomaterials and drug delivery was mostly because I was interested in that field and because I want to actually go into industry in that field eventually. And being pre-med was just my, it's like my mode of learning and mode of directing these skill sets towards helping people directly. So yes, the two go hand in hand very well, but I wouldn't say that being pre-med made me decide to be BMDD, especially because a lot of other concentrations within BME would also lend themselves pretty well to being a pre-med.
Yeah. How about for the rest of the group? Was there anything in particular that led you to the concentration that you chose?
So I unfortunately found out that I was more interested in like bioinformatics and like the CS side of biomedical engineering a little too late in my journey. So instead of pursuing a CS minor, I decided to concentrate in MCSE. And so this allowed me to take more data science and bioinformatics and also CS classes to fulfill, I guess, these needs that I that I had. And so, yeah, I think choosing MCSE was a good decision because I was also deciding between biomedical imaging and instrumentation. And I felt like that I decided that I was leaning more towards the software side of things as opposed to hardware. And so that's why I chose MCSE.
Yeah, so I don't think Professor Butcher mentioned this, but you do get to kind of try out the different concentrations in the sense that there's a specific class that is geared towards each of the concentrations that you take in the sophomore year. So, for example, everybody takes a signals and systems class, and that can kind of indicate to people if they'd be interested in something like instrumentation. So I think that taking those 4 classes will give most people a good idea of what they want to do.
Right, and also remember that you don't really select your concentration until your junior year. So you get to experience all those snippets of the different concentrations up until you have to actually decide. So you have time to pick.
So,
Yeah.
oh, go
In
ahead.
addition to testing out the different sort of courses your sophomore year, what really sort of informed me on my choice was looking at the faculty research. So I was actually pretty torn between the biomaterials, drug delivery concentration and the MCSE concentration. But ultimately, when I looked at the different research areas and the faculty that was in those areas and what they were doing in their research labs, that sort of helped me narrow down what I wanted to do and ultimately decided on the drug delivery.
I ended up doing MCSE, even though the slide says I was the biomechanics route. That's like related to the job I do now, because that was the concentration that was easiest to fulfill. And since I was doing a co-op, I ended up doing all my concentration classes in one semester, just to try and get them out of the way. And so depending on maybe your pre-med, maybe you're trying to do 2 minors, maybe you're trying to do a bunch of different things with your course path, that could inform your decision to doing one concentration or the other. Doing the concentration that you think you might want to do now and not ending up doing it is not the end of the world. Concentrations are kind of meant to, in my opinion, give you some courses or projects that can inform something you might talk about in an interview. Or if you're really interested in doing graduate school, a PhD, for example, doing a concentration might be very critical in helping you figure out what you might want to do for your PhD. So it's not the end of the world if you don't do a specific concentration that you really think you want to do now, because you can still take classes in those different areas as major electives too.
Excellent, thank you. So we've got a question regarding GPA in freshman year. I heard that the average GPA for freshmen at College of Engineering is 2.7. Considering GPA is important if you are doing pre-med, and I know we have students who are thinking about graduate school that think about this a lot as well. Do you have any advice for freshmen on how to maintain a good GPA, or any tips you wish to leave? Any tips that you wish you knew earlier, or mistakes that you think are avoidable?
I think I want to start off the conversation by telling everyone my lowest prelim grade. So prelims are what we call midterms, and my lowest prelim grade was a 33 whopping percent. So that means I knew less than half of the information on the exam, and here I am today with a job. And I'm also doing part-time graduate school online through Johns Hopkins, which is arguably another really good, engineering institution as well. So don't fear if your freshman year GPA is not exactly what you hoped for. Keep in mind when you're applying to med school and PhD programs and other master's programs that you'll be applying either junior or senior year, or even after you've graduated from Cornell a couple years later. So that freshman year GPA is not necessarily indicative of what your GPA will look like your junior or senior year. And I think the general trend is that they go up. Your GPA goes up junior and senior year once you're in your BME classes.
I would also just say that failing an exam is not that big of a deal. Even though it feels like it in the moment, you take dozens upon dozens upon dozens of exams over the course of your 4 years at Cornell, and they all kind of like work together to make the mistakes kind of vanish in the distance. My freshman first semester GPA was like a 2.73, and now I'm starting an MD-PhD program at Cornell University. So you can bounce back, and you can always get better. You have time. Yeah, what I would say to help avoid that first like crash is recognize that you're going into a school where everybody used to be the best where they came from. So just because you're like a top A student where you are, or because you like have always done so well in school, doesn't mean you're going to be great here, and that's fine. You don't have to be number one all the time. But that being said, you can still work hard, do well, and get what you're looking for. Just don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't wait to ask for help. If you feel yourself like slipping a little bit, ask for help immediately. Even before that, look for tutors, look for people, go to TA office hours, do what you can to set yourself up from the very beginning to do well, and don't wait for things to get bad before you start looking for help.
Yeah, I'll also say that I guess in addition to like absolutely good office hours, like my biggest mistake freshman year was that I didn't go to office hours because I was like afraid of my TAs and thought that I could figure it out on my own, and clearly I couldn't. But I also think that some of the faculty connections that I made at Cornell were made because I went to office hours and like started to get to know faculty better. So somebody asked about like science policy in one of the questions, and I knew nothing about science policy until I went to Chris Schaefer's office hours because I had a question about circuits. And that was how I learned about science policy. And now I'm super into it, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. So like, I think that making those connections can often end up being really important for either figuring out, what concentration you want to do, or for figuring out what kind of research you might want to do, or like finding job opportunities. It can be important for applying to grad school. I had a lot of faculty that I formed relationships with that way, write letters of rec for me that, I'd go to interviews and people would be like, yeah, like so-and-so wrote you a letter, and like, we know them and we thought it was really good. Like stuff like that can be really helpful in the process. So, ask for help when you need it. Don't wait to ask for help, but also like cultivate those relationships over the years, because those people can become your biggest mentors and your biggest advocates.
And just for anyone wondering what office hours are, they are times during the week where professors or graduate students, sometimes undergraduate students in Alex's case, will hold time where you can go and ask questions about the course. So they have to have them, and they're usually at the same time every week.
I'll also just say one mistake that I made freshman year was trying to study on North Campus. North Campus is where the freshmen live in the first year. I highly recommend to everybody who I meet from now moving forward to never try to study on North Campus. Study on Central, go to the library, go somewhere where your bed is not near you, because it's too tempting.
Yeah, I'll add another small tip. Something that really helped me was before I came to college, I tried to sort of understand some habits that work for me. So that really made a big difference when I began to study my first and second semesters. So just really getting like a general idea of like some of the things that work for you and like what you need to succeed at Cornell can really help, however small. So like, for example, I always need like a snack with me whenever I study, or I'll just like completely burn out and like I don't have that fuel. So like just small things like that can really make a difference in like how effective your studying habits are.
Yeah, I think all of that is really good advice. So to kind of offer a little bit of a different perspective on GPA, when I look back now, like as a graduate student, I think by far the most fulfilling part of my undergraduate education was not, that has nothing to do with my GPA. Like it is important, but just like gaining knowledge, learning ideas, connecting these ideas, and then solving problems is just one of the best like feelings. And I definitely wish that in the moment I'd appreciated that more and not viewed some of my classes as just memorizing the names of things, because the names of things like don't, like you have to kind of know it, but that's not really what matters. And as engineers and as biomedical engineers, there's a lot more to college and learning than just a good GPA.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. Like what Alex said kind of really hits the nail on the head. Like when you major in engineering, what you're really learning is how to critically think. I can tell you that nobody at my job has ever asked me anything about some sort of polymer I learned in a biomaterials class, or I don't even know. I can't even remember random facts to even give you examples of. But the most important thing I learned at undergrad was F equals MA, and I am not even kidding. Like this is the equation that we use literally every day at work. And so it's little things like that, like keep it into perspective, especially when you go off and you work. You're going to learn a whole new set of information that you definitely didn't touch in undergrad. And that goes the same for PhD programs as well. You're going to learn so many things that maybe you barely touched on in undergrad, but now you're going to expand into this whole new world. So don't stress too much about all the classwork. I think the most fulfilling things that I've experienced were like the human interactions that I had with other people or extracurricular activities that I was involved in. And I can be very honest and say that sometimes I would choose to do other extracurricular activities or hang out with friends rather than study. And that's okay too, because you're in college and you're a student and you don't really have too many responsibilities as a 18 to 22-year-old. So take that time during college and just kind of relax. Because you work really hard to get to this point, right? In high school, you're at the top of your game, top of your class, great SAT scores, all that stuff. So yeah, just take a little bit of time, take a breather. It's okay to not have a perfect GPA.
Just to add on to that, one more thing that I thought was really helpful was being able to work with others in like group settings. So like with homework assignments or just studying for prelims. As someone who like in high school never really liked studying with others or like found it distracting or like just not beneficial at all, I thought that the same thing would apply in college. So freshman year, I like rarely studied with anyone and it was kind of difficult. So then as I learned to understand what I thought to be more helpful in my study habits, I realized that studying with people and working with people who were also struggling in the same boat was really helpful in teaching others what you know and like receiving information from them. This exchange of knowledge is really crucial and really helpful in just studying and gaining new friendships as well.
I promise we're almost done with this question, but I wanted to hit on that last point. I think that the biggest bonding moments that my cohort had were like at 8 o'clock at night on a Thursday in the third floor conference room of Wow Hall, which is where the BME department is located, doing signals problem sets with our TA Jeffrey. And like, those are the moments that I remember even now. And I don't remember what the problem set was on. And I'm sure, you know, I learned a lot in that moment, but like, that's what you're going to walk away from Cornell with. And I'm really happy with the memories that I came away with from going to things like office hours or doing group problem sets together and just really getting to know my peers.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. So I know we've gone a bit over time here, and I think we've kind of ended on a really nice note here with y'all sharing your experiences. And, you know, I think to me, you know, what I see across these different classes is that really close, tight-knit community that gets developed throughout the coursework, throughout the experiences on project teams, throughout, you know, experiences in the research labs, and connecting with faculty and graduate students and fellow undergraduates. So, you know, I'm going to say officially we're wrapping up here as we start, you know, getting into the 9:30 timeframe. But I'm going to stick around and continue answering. We've got a couple, you know, questions that are still open in the Q&A. But if anyone needs to sign off, you know, feel free to take that time to do so. And I also want to share with you that I know I answered this in the Q&A, but we are going to put this webinar up onto the virtual site so that you all can take a look back and review this as well. And so that you'll be able to look at this information either as you're thinking about major and, you know, thinking about Cornell coming in the fall, or you're still making that college decision at this time. So before people do start heading off, I want to thank everyone again for joining us and thank the panelists for being here. It's so great to see all of your faces again. You know, whether it's been a year or 2 years or, you know, a month or so, it's good to see you guys.
I just want to say, please don't, you know, hesitate to reach out with questions. Maybe Ryan can give our contact information, but I'm always happy to, you know, answer any questions. It's really not a problem at all.
Yeah, definitely reach out with any additional questions. And, you know, I think I've got a few med school questions that I'll probably be forwarding Nadum's way, and we'll add and we'll bolster up that frequently asked questions that are on the virtual open house site as well. All right. Thank you all for joining. Again, I'm gonna stick around and answer a couple more questions in Q&A, but if you need to sign off, feel free. All right, thanks guys.